One, two,
Standing
go.
by. You know it.
Here we go.
Hey everybody, you are listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Pairs podcast. So, as you might imagine, because you're hearing my voice first, things are going to go a little bit different tonight. Brother Bill is not able to join us. This is a rarity. We are going to miss him dearly, but you know he's been called away to take care of some stuff. He's doing very important work. We want to send a big hug out to him. Lots of love. For those of you who are listening to this who may know him or connect with him through social media, just drop him something, say hi and wish him well. Like, he could use a little bit of positivity right now. Everything's cool with him, but just he's taking care of some business. But as always, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And I'm Steve Morey, still the second person to go, which is really interesting.
Yeah, no, this is a weird and different dynamic, but I think we're gonna do okay. I've been in the host chair once or twice in my days, so I think we're in good hands. We want to thank all of you who are joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Those of you who are watching, feel free to drop comments in the chat, talk to us. We'll get the back and forth going like we always do. We love it. We are privileged to be joined by some really incredible creators who are going to tell us about the things that they have produced and brought and birthed into the world for our reading pleasure. As you can see, if you're watching this to my probably left, right, I don't know which one it is because the camera flips back, but we are joined by Amanda Kahl and Jeremy Flagg. I think Jeremy's Randall Flagg's illegitimate son from American Flag. We're not sure about that though. The DNA
He has a
test
story about that.
Oh, does he?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to get in that. But we are joined so you guys can tell us about your new work. And like I said earlier, we're gonna let you do a lot of the heavy lifting. But the book that you're mainly going to talk about, this new work that you guys are producing, is a book called I Am the First, and this is produced by Brave New Comics. The first issue, I think, is maybe available to be downloaded for our reading pleasure. So we've got 1 through 5, I think, is what we've got available now.
Yep.
So we're going to kick it over to you guys, but as we always do, I want to know a little bit of your comic book origin story, right? When did you start reading comics? And once we've established that, just kind of testing the waters, right? I want to know what drove you fine folks from comic reader as a casual fan, maybe, to diving head on and just, like, I don't know, chasing the dragon that is comics creation, deciding to be artists and writers and bring this stuff, because it really is an abusive addiction. I know enough comic creators that I can say that. So we'll pitch it over to one of you. You guys decide who goes first. Fight over it. Arm wrestle. I don't care. A mean game of rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock would be great. But pitch it over and tell us how you got into being a comics fan.
Age before beauty.
Yeah, go for it, Jeremy.
Okay. Well, I see how that goes. Yeah, so it's kind of weird how I got into comic books in the first place. I am literally a walking X-Men. Like, that has been my dream for my entire life. But when I was younger, my parents really thought that I had some sort of issue with reading. I love being read too, but I absolutely refused to do any reading. And they were ready to call a specialist. And we were driving from North Carolina up to visit my grandmother in Maine. And my mother didn't want to deal with me. And so she bought a stack of comic books, threw them in the back seat and said, "There, don't talk." And what do you know? I didn't. And when we finally got up to Maine, I was starting to use words that she did not quite understand. And when Banff becomes part of your vernacular, or snicked or oh god, like weird. It was a Nightcrawler issue. She was, where is this coming from? Oh, comic books. And when she found out that I would read comic books, you're never going to do drugs if you're a comic book fan. Can't afford it. And so she just kept layering them on comic after comic, and that just kind of became a thing for me. And ever since then, it's just been this ongoing thing in my life. And when I finally hit middle school, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be an artist. I have no art skills to speak of, but I'm gonna be an artist. And so I must have submitted dozens of images to Marvel and got the traditional Stan Lee rejection letter. And I had so many of them that I was like, okay, obviously this is not going according to plan. How can I break in here? And at the time, this author, Chris Golden, had done a novel adaptation of some random X-Men story. And I was like, oh, well, if he can write books, so can I. And so I wound up reworking it was a Fatal Attraction storyline with Wolverine. I don't know why I remember that. But I redid it out as a novelization and I sent it in and I got a different rejection notice, which made me think I was one step closer to getting rejected by Stan Lee himself and not just a form letter. And so it kind of just became a thing. And a friend of mine in high school, he actually had art skills. And so he started doodling my comics. And I remember when we got our first Brother word processor, I was obsessed. And we wrote a comic and hit issue 125 before the fourth thing died. There was a stack of 3.5-inch floppies. And I still, weirdly enough, those are what eventually became my novel. But it's been everything who I am. And ultimately I went to school for computer science and I was like, oh, this will make me lots of money. I realized you have to do math and that wasn't in the brochure. So that didn't go according to plan. And I wound up finally going to school for art of all random things. And I still can't draw. I have multiple art degrees. And yeah, stick figures. They're wonderful. And
hey, they worked out really well for Tom Gauld. Really, really well.
Yeah.
The whole graphic design, piece of cake. Photography, piece of cake. Illustration, that's a special breed of artist, and I am not that. So I wound up going working in education for a little while, and then I was like, oh, well, I need to go get my master's anyways. So let me go get it from an actual art school, and we'll retry this art thing one more time. And that's actually how I reconnected with Amanda. And yeah, still can't draw. But thankfully, I knew someone who could. So it's really all about who you know. So that's kind of what brought me to where I am now. I write superheroes. I can talk about them all day long. But if you want to see a mean stick figure, I'm your man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I gotta know. Do you have? I mean, you're wearing a Gambit shirt. Do you claim a favorite X-Men at this point, or is it just one of those things like you love the entire team?
Oh, sorry, folks who are going to be listening to the podcast.
Oh, yeah,
can't see my wall.
There's your dudes.
It's the Pantheon.
Okay.
Those are who matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
And until they make Colossus action figure with the beard, I'm never.
Oh, I'm a big fan of Daddy Colossus.
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah, big fan. Like that's
beard.
I also noticed that there's no Cyclops up there. That's
they're on a break. They're on a break.
The only thing he ever did right was make Jean angry.
Scott.
I want that on a t-shirt. All right. All right. So Amanda, let's jump over to you. Let's jump over to you real quick. I want to hear your comic book origin story.
So I actually did that kind of all completely backwards.
Okay.
So I always really enjoyed telling stories and writing, and I always really enjoyed drawing. And so I just kind of naturally did both of them. And similarly to Jeremy's story of his mom going, "Here, take these and leave me alone," what my mom would do would be to take a bunch of pieces of construction paper and she'd fold them in half and use like bread ties to make little bindings for them. And then she'd hand it to me and go, "Here, go make your own book." Basically, like, stop bothering me. Go draw and write your story elsewhere. And so before I even actually knew how to write, I would be making my own like picture books and eventually comics once I started like being able to read and could read like the newspaper comic strips and like Garfield or whatever. It was like, oh, this is a thing. Words and pictures together are a thing. I see. I'll do that. And so I just kind of naturally did it because it was both of my interests of writing and storytelling and drawing all mixed together. And so I spent years creating comics before I ever even really read comics to any serious degree. I would say I didn't really do much serious comics reading outside of like newspaper comic strips until I was in middle school. And that's when I started in with reading mostly X-Men as well, because like, of course, but also it was one of the few things I had ready access to because living in rural Maine, we didn't have a comic book store nearby. We had the pharmacy. And the pharmacy would carry like a couple different X-Men books, and basically that was it. And so that was what I had, and thankfully I loved it and it was great. Yeah, and so I did start actually reading comics and I was like, oh, that's actually really cool, but I don't know if this is actually a viable thing for me to do. But then when I got a little bit older into high school and started reading like graphic novels and especially the more literary graphic novels, I was like, oh wow, this is like a serious art form. And so then ultimately I ended up going to art school and getting a degree in sequential art. So I actually have a degree in comics from SCAD, which is
very cool.
One of the more useless degrees one can possibly get, but it was a worthwhile education. One of the things that was worthwhile for me as well was that I did an off-campus program where I went to New York City for a week and we like toured all the different major comics like superhero publishers. So we went and visited DC and we visited Marvel. We visited a bunch of different comic artists who lived in New York City in their home studios. We went to like Mad Magazine. We went to a bunch of different places. And I left that trip going, wow, I don't want to work for any of these people. This is awful. This seems like a nightmare.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what was it about that scene? Was it just the production culture of it, or like it just? So, what was it that turned you off?
That was a big part of it. The production culture, the fact that it was like, okay, well, everything has to, we're very like, we're very much on this, like, we have to have things set to a schedule and we have to have like everything has to look a certain way. I remember all of us on this trip just about died laughing. We were in Axel, what was his last name? Alonso. Yeah, we were in Axel Alonso's office in Marvel, and he had a bunch of like the pencils of books that he was supervising like on his wall. And he's like, well, as you can see, we don't have a house style here at Marvel. And we're all just like, because like all of these different art styles were so incredibly similar. It's like we're coming from an actual comic program. Like we're from a vast array of styles, just those of us who are here on this trip, but we also are exposed to and study styles from all over the world and lots of different storytelling backgrounds. And you're telling me that Marvel superhero styles is not a style, sir? Sir.
I mean, it's not like Linda Berry is going to come in and do Spectacular Spider-Man or something.
Exactly.
Like, that would not work.
Yeah,
or their aesthetic.
Right, exactly. And that was part of the thing where I was just like, I'm just not really interested in fitting into this like production line, this is what we think makes sense for, like, not because we care about it as a story, but from like a marketing perspective, this is what we need to do to check these boxes, and you have to fit this style thing, and we have to have this constant kind of like demand and back and forth, that I was just like, I don't like any of this. This sounds miserable. So that set me on the path of self-publishing, which I
Right.
have been doing ever since.
Are you still keeping up with any of the mainstream comics, though? Do you read mainstream comics at all?
I generally don't keep up with mainstream superhero comics as they're coming out. Sometimes when something is done and it's available like in a trade, then I'll go back and I'll like read like an arc after it's done. And I tend to keep up more with like graphic novel releases as they come out, but a lot more of what I'm interested in comics tends to be a lot more of the like indie published stuff and things that people are doing off on their own.
Yeah, no, and I certainly can appreciate that.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that is I want, I know exactly the era you're talking about, and yeah, to say that Marvel did not have a house style is just like, no, there's variances in there,
Yeah,
but you guys they had a house style.
I will note that this was also in 2007, so
well,
like,
and that's
yeah.
I was gonna ask about that, but I do think I was gonna get your opinion on that, and one of the reasons I was asking if you keep up with modern comics, I mean, now you've got folks like Trad Moore, you've got, I mean, obviously Scotty Young, who's bringing a different view to it, Peach Momoko, who, I really like her art. I don't think her storytelling's where it needs to be yet, but I think she's growing incredibly well as an artist. You've got Jorge Corona's doing some stuff, so I was going to ask you, like, do you see that changing? Do you see like the bigger publishers having to adopt other styles?
For sure, there's been a lot more diversity. I think that there's still like among a certain segment of the population, there's still some resistance to that, and still a lot of like, oh, but I like it when they look the same way that they've looked for the last 40 years. but there is a lot more available now, that's for sure, than there was at the time when I had that experience.
But I will also say that of like, how many titles does Marvel put out a month?
349,462.
Exactly.
But only 2,000 are X-Men titles. They really
only, and then the rest of them are Iron Man
or Spider-Man. Yeah.
True fact. But even of like the 200 that come out, like the Scotty Young is the one.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like they're kind of like, you know what? Next month, everything looks the same. We'll take a chance on you.
Right.
But you're only going to get 4 issues, and then we're going to can you, and then you can go work for DC for a while. So make it good.
Yeah, that also, like, just some of the corporate horror stories of the way that certain artists got treated did not help. One of my professors while I was at SCAD was Tom Lyle, who had a very long, storied history of legal battles with Marvel, and some of them, I'm sure, like Tom Lyle, rest in peace, was a perfectly good professor, perfectly nice guy, but he did have the ability to like rub people the wrong way, and so I'm sure some of the issues were personality based, but there were also like lots of other issues. I did find it a little bit I did find it a little bit disconcerting that Scarlet Spider made an appearance in Across the Spider-Verse now that Tom has passed. I was like, oh, curious that you dragged this out now, that Tom will not come and start up his legal battles again, since so
that is interesting. I didn't even think about that connection. I knew that they had done some Scarlet Spider work in the past couple of years, but I did not think about the fact that Tom was no longer with us, and they would use that. Surely, I mean, who knows, right? I know how these things work, but I don't know the details. I don't know if the estate would have had to sign off on that or not.
Probably not, because as it was, Tom was basically constantly fighting with them of like Marvel basically just outright saying, no, we own Scarlet Spider and you don't have a claim to it, and Tom being like, but I do though, because I designed him.
Right.
And so anytime that they did try to bring Scarlet Spider out, like for any of the, like the Marvel versus Capcom skins or whatever, Tom would be like writing them angry letters from his lawyer.
This is where Caleb, this is where I get to put my lawyer hat on and remind people that the United States is one of the only places on earth that does not recognize what they call moral rights in work. So you can sell your rights to something to a corporation. Other countries don't do that. They say, no, you created this. You have the copyright. You can
Right,
sell part
right.
of it, but part of this is yours always in perpetuity. Beethoven still, like, his family's still getting royalties for stuff that he wrote from the country of like Liechtenstein from the 15, like, I'm not joking. Like, they still
Yeah.
get a check for that because that's how it works there.
Yeah.
So, let's change that.
Yeah.
So,
Would be nice.
I
all right, so
at one of the cons, Amanda, I don't know if you, it was in Massachusetts, I think. I got a chance to meet Bob McLeod and have a conversation with him. And it happened to be the same weekend that they announced the signing of inking the deal for the New Mutants movie.
mhm.
Oh, really?
And so Bob McLeod was there, and I was like, there's a line at every artist but him. And I'm like, okay, let's go see. Well, there was kind of a reason, because he started in on a rant of how he got screwed out of his rights.
Oh,
and
no.
he had some choice words, and there are a
Yeah.
lot of 4-letter words in there. But so Marvel, you're not that pristine company that everyone. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like even casual observers now know the story of Jack, right, and Steve Ditko, and
Mhm.
the Ramitas, and all the things that go into that as well. I mean, I would like to hope that things have gotten better in that culture. We know they haven't been; they're not perfect, right? But at least, I mean, and DC as well. I mean, you have the Bob Kane and Bill Finger horror story.
Yeah.
That goes along with that, the Schuster and Siegel as well.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're the only country that don't have moral rights. So
Right.
when
Yeah.
and that's a legal term of art, not me saying it's morality, although it is. But
I always thought I finally watched the Chris Claremont special.
yeah,
And that was entertaining because the number of times he referenced the man upstairs. And I'm not entirely sure if there was a real man at the time, because it would have been Bob, what's his name?
yeah,
Or Stan Lee, or he was just talking about the figurative head of Marvel. That is Marvel.
The vague.
But every time he mentioned it, I had to giggle a little bit, because at this point we all kind of know what it's like, and he was still working for Marvel when this was made, so he was kind of dancing around the subject.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I mean,
speaking
it
of
is tough. Yeah.
I was just going to say, speaking of Claremont, he's the one who got you both hooked on this mess that we call comics through X-Men, and brought you guys together. And now you have produced a body of work together. Tell us a little bit about this new book that you guys have, and where you're going with it. And then I'm going to pull a bill and throw things over to Steve, who is our good luck charm.
Amanda, this is all you.
Oh, see, normally I make Jeremy do the pitch because he's the writer. He does the words, and I draw things. But it would take me a while to draw the pitch, so I guess I will attempt to do the words.
Well, and I can add some visual representation here as well, if you'd like me to throw the
Oh, that would be
pages up on screen.
fantastic. I would appreciate that, Steve. Thank you. Hey, look.
So for those of you who are viewing or who are watching us, either on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, etc., we are looking at the cover of the first issue.
Yes. So I am the first. This is written by Jeremy. It's drawn by me. It is a coming of age superhero origin story that is as much about being gay in a small town as it is about discovering that you have superpowers and what you're going to do about that. So as I kind of describe it to people when they are asking about what the general vibe of the story is, you have Alec, who is our main character, who has a very rough life. He is trying to deal with a very difficult home life, being bullied in school, feeling like an outsider. And then he also realizes, oh, crap, I have superhero powers. Now what?
That's
Yeah.
it?
That's the pitch. General pitch.
That's it, yeah.
And then I show people the inside of the book, and they're not listening to me anyway. They're just looking at the pretty
that is a
pictures.
good point.
So
Well, speaking of, we can move on to to the opening of the book itself,
See,
and
pretty pictures.
I do have to say, when I first read this last year, I was very impressed. Very few people would start out the book with with what you started out with. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, but very a very impactful situation in just the first 2 pages.
So originally
Yeah.
this project came about because Amanda and I were working conventions together, and we would always table together. And I don't even actually know if we mentioned it. We grew up together. Like, we went to school
Yes.
together. So
Yes, we're from the same very small rural community in Maine. Different towns technically, because we're part of the areas that take 6 towns to scrape together enough students for one high school type of situation. But yeah, the same very rural area. Jeremy's a few years ahead of me in school, but
he was
we have
married
a
to my best friend's little brother.
yep,
So
yep.
we are a very close-knit community.
Yes, yes. I'm married to his best friend's little brother. His mom photographed my wedding. It's just oh yeah,
So
his mom and my mother-in-law went to college together. Like, just all that. This is just how our area works.
how we're not related, I don't know.
We're probably, I'm sure if we traced it back somewhere we are.
I bet you we could figure it out. You think we're kidding? We're not even a little. So I was working with her. She kind of got me involved doing the convention circuit when I very first started producing sci-fi novels, and we just kept talking. And I still remember there was this one kid who came up to her, and I think this might have been my first convention in Bangor, and this kid was like pitching her hard on this idea that he had. And eventually, I mean, it went on for a while, and she's just humoring him, and I'm like, this is getting awkward. And
This is
eventually,
also just what I do at conventions.
yeah.
Is I let teenagers talk to me for way too long.
And so eventually the kid left, and she's like, yep, he'll never make a comic. And that's kind of how it would go, is people often would walk up and just be like, here's this brilliant idea. And they basically would pitch her this entire idea, hoping that she would be like, that does sound great. I'll work for free for you. I'm
never gonna do that.
I saw this over, I mean, in a given weekend, it was like a dozen times. And so she would always just politely tell them to go about their business. And so finally, one point, I was like, you know what we should do? We should make a comment. And I'm not kidding. She rolled her eyes far enough back that there was only white. And sure.
Excellent.
Okay, fine. Well, if anyone knows me, I just do things out of spite. So I went and brainstormed. And originally we were going to make I pitched a comic book that was a visualization of a story in between some of my sci-fi novels. And we kind of went back and forth on it. And she came down to visit me in Massachusetts. And we were sitting in the hot tub, and I'm trying to pitch it to her. And I'm pitching hard. And she just dismissed it. Nah, that doesn't sound that great. And I'm like, seriously, come on. Trying to politely let me down in my own hot tub. And so I was like, okay, fine. I have this idea. And when I say I had an idea, I had the title of the comic. I am the first. That's it. There was no story. There was nothing. And she's like, okay. I'm like, of course. She picks the one I don't know. Well, there's a kid, and he's going to be the first superhero. That is all I had. And she just gave me the, get back to me on that. She doesn't make it easy. She made me work for it. And so I originally read a quote somewhere that had to do with Batman, and if Batman had not experienced trauma as a child, or if Bruce Wayne had not experienced trauma as a child, Batman wouldn't exist. Batman only exists through trauma. Oh.
Yeah.
That is intriguing. I mean, Superman, he only is Superman. His whole ethos is because he's trying to make up for, an entire dead planet. And so I started looking at comics and I was like, man, literally every one of these superheroes has issues. And so we took it literally. And there's no spoiler here. In the opening page, he comes back from a suicide attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that trauma made the hero. Literally, trauma gave him powers. And so we put trauma at forefront of this whole concept. And when we were very early talking on about it, I mean, there was a little bit of, well, this is a little nervous because we are literally making a YA comic for teenagers, young adults, and we opened the page with a suicide attempt. And we just kind of made the decision. We're not going to lie about it. It is what it is. This is something that teenagers deal with. This is something that young gay teenagers especially deal with. And we said, we're not going to hold back. And so we went all in on it. And that is what I knew that I wanted him to wake up outside in whatever form. And she made that happen. And when I saw the first 2 pages, it was a punch to the chest of, we've got it. And so that's kind of what started the rest of it. And then at that point, I kind of had to write a whole comic book. So
like, oh man.
I guess we actually have to do
2 pages with no text.
I mean, it's a really powerful way to introduce your readers to the main character, or to one of the central characters, and just being able to present sort of your this teenager who's clearly going through a lot, in his personal life. There's a lot going on at school. And obviously within himself, all those kinds of struggles and that just general, life is really shitty right now for me for multiple reasons that, are revealed through the first issue. And it's just definitely something where it's like, if you were going for a superhero with the origin of trauma, like original trauma, like this kid has got, he's going through it.
And I think everyone, the reason I like it so much is my coming out story is super boring. I told my parents and they were like, good luck, have fun. Like, my coming out story is literally the most boring. My mom cried one night, and that was, I think, the extent of it. My dad, ex-military, ex-cop, was like, no son of mine, and now he flies a rainbow sticker in the back of his big old pickup truck, because that's where we come from. But
I love your dad. He's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, my dad is everything Maine in one human.
He really is.
But even if that wasn't your story, you knew that person.
Yeah.
Like, even amongst our, like, my graduating class was 53 kids, and we were the big class of the school. And yeah, it wasn't talked about openly, but we knew, that there was a suicide attempt right there. Yep. Or you would see the ramifications for it, or a student would be pulled for a few days. And we were a small community. We knew everything that happened to everybody. There was no way around it. So even if it's not your story, it's our collective story as young people. And no one talked about it when we were kids. It didn't exist. Because
That's also
apparently,
just really remarkable that honestly, between the time when you graduated, even to the time when I graduated, and that was a difference of like, what, 8 years or something, and 6 years. Yeah, it was a difference of about 6 years. And in that whole time, the there was like you and Josh were like the only openly gay kids in our school. And there was nobody until the year after me that was out in
and
that whole intervening time. And it's like since then, now with like social media and you can keep up with people a lot easier. Obviously, tons of us are. But at the time, nobody. Nobody. For that entire like 6 year stretch, not a soul. And it wasn't until the year after me that there was someone who came out at like prom.
we had my one of my years, we had a French teacher who he pinged the dar. We suspected. And when he didn't seem extremely insulted that we asked him out on behalf of Lacey Martin's brother, because again, we're a small community, we know everyone's business, and he wasn't extremely insulted by it, we were like, we know. And
this is where I wish we wouldn't get pinged for copyright infringement, because I want Steve to go pull up and play Gay or European from from Legally Blonde.
Well, I think we can pay it for 30 seconds.
Yeah. This is funny because I connect with so much of what you're saying. I grew up in a town, like I said, I'm from rural Arkansas. I grew up in a town with 600 people. So very much a similar story. And I didn't come out till college, right? But my dad's a Church of Christ preacher. My family's very religious, right? There's a lot of this, there's a lot of me like laying right there. I know what that's like, right? I've been there. And so have so many people. It's no secret that in the queer community, gay kids or people who will, come out as gay at some point, they attempt suicide at much higher rates than other kids do, right? So my theory and my thought, and I think there's science to back this up, is that if a kid is old enough to contemplate suicide, then they're old enough to learn coping skills, and they're old enough to learn therapeutic and healthy ways not to do that, and they're old enough to look at a story, be it in prose or be it in comics or be it in television of some form, that dissects that and literally empowers them, which is, I think, the theme of like surviving trauma can be empowering. And that's kind of the theme of what this book was. And I was reading this, I think, day before yesterday, and going back and kind of refreshing myself for it. And that's where I went with it. And I'm so glad to hear y'all say that is the impetus of the book, right? Because that's exactly what I pulled from that, is that it's a metaphor. I mean, it is empowering, right? And that's going to be superheroes in this sense, but learning from, trauma can leave physical and emotional scars, and learning from that can give you the boost you need to be that person. And, hopefully we keep kids alive long enough that can happen. And of course we're having this conversation the week that a giant news thing has hit everywhere from a neighboring state where a queer kid was murdered, in a bathroom, and there's just so much of that it's so hard to survive adolescence as a queer child. And that's even in a day and age where we talk about it, I don't think not enough people are talking about it, but we at least now have media, we have a representation, and just we're still seeing how hard it can be to survive that. So I think this what you guys have created is a tool, and I mean that sincerely. You've created a tool for people, both older folks like me and younger folks, and to be able to look at this and know that there is a life after adolescence. So,
and that was so the whole Google campaign of It Gets Better, I have watched every one of them on repeat over and over. When you are having those horrible days, and it can be everything from relationship to a squabble with your parents or whatever have you, they were wonderful in the fact that these are people who have gone through it, who aren't just saying it for the sake of saying it. They've gone through it. They've come out on the other side. And some of them, their stories aren't happy. They don't end at a great spot. So as you think about that to where it started, and this is it gets better, you think, holy crap, like this was rough for them in such a massive way. So I have to say, even while we were working on this, Amanda I would write the script and I would send it to Amanda, and she would come back with the pencils, and her thumbnail pencils are these delightful little sketches that they don't carry emotion when you see them. They carry story structure. And
it's just like the actual little like thumbnails are basically just like here's a very quick little like placeholder to show you that this panel is going to have this person in a close-up, and there's not much more to it than that. Like they're very straightforward, just that it's like, here's the basic idea of what I'm going to draw later so that you know where I'm going with this.
And I wrote this comic. I've seen these little thumbnails, so I have an idea of what's coming. And then the first pencils would show up in my inbox. Shit. Over and over. And while I love this project, it's mildly traumatic all on its own.
Yeah.
Kind of going back through it over and over again. And the weirdly satisfying part was Amanda got it. I think in 120 pages, there was one panel that needed adjusting. Oh yeah, more blood. I think that was my suggestion.
Always more blood. Always.
More blood. It's not, doesn't look gross enough. Make it more gross.
But there were so many moments of kind of like, and I've known Amanda. I've known Amanda since 1998.
Yeah, we're old.
Yeah, it's been that long. And even then, having her translate this in a visual medium, there was definitely a lot of, someone gets it. Mm. And so, I mean, and we've had weirdly personal talks ongoing about mental health, about suicide, about just home life crazy, all because of this comic. And I'm hoping that that is the conversation that keeps moving forward. Also, I just think it's a cool ass looking comic. So
yeah.
On top of everything.
Right. One of my favorite things about the way that you wrote it too is that with all of these different struggles that Alec has, I mean, you have like obviously antagonistic characters like the stepfather, which is who we have Don, who we have the pictures of up on the screen now, for those who are watching. Other than like the obviously antagonistic characters, everyone who's even somewhat on Alec's side, none of them are ever belittling what he goes through or shaming him for having a hard time. And I think that that's actually like something I really appreciate about the way that the story was written, was the fact that there is never the question of like, oh my God, why did you try to kill yourself? Like, why would you do that? That's so awful. Because it's like, you know, people who are dealing with stuff like this and having so much of a hard time don't need more shame. They don't need people questioning why they're having such a hard time. And I find that so frustrating when I'm reading other fiction where that gets to be, where that's part of the story. Because it's like, I wanted to have to justify myself. Like, as a reader, I get what's going on. As someone who has been through a lot of terrible stuff, I get what is going on here. We don't need to justify why this character is feeling this way or why this is hard. And I really appreciate the fact that that's never a part of the story. No one's ever questioning Alec, like, why is your life so hard? Why would you try to do this? You're fine. It's just like,
the other thing
we know.
The other thing that I thought was interesting is, I mean, we start with this event. Like, there's no sugarcoating. Like, and we even had the conversation, and there's a certain amount of me being ashamed to even have the conversation of, if we put this in front of a YA book, how much are we screwing ourselves? Because of course, part of it, we have to look at it from a financial standpoint. We have to look at it from marketing standpoint, not just pure art is creation. And so we had that conversation. And there's even a moment I remember walking away from it going, God, the fact that that has to be a conversation is mind numbing.
Yeah.
And while it's the first inciting, I don't even know what you would call it, the inciting incident, to be quite honest, but it's not even the focus of the story. It is just this one little fraction. And I think that's a big thing, is that there's this push on mental health, that you are your diagnosis. And I mean, we find out he's got more going on than just this. And so we tried very hard to make a well-rounded character, because
it brings forth the idea that you are not defined by a singular moment of your life, no matter what that singular moment is, happy, sad, somewhere in between. That doesn't define you. I mean, we are 3 and 4 dimensional beings when you bring in emotion and and just who we are as people with brains and the ability to learn and the existence in the world. And I appreciate that. We talk about some books on here. I've talked about it in the past. I'm a huge fan of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Even before it became a Netflix hit, I've been spreading the gospel of Heartstoppers forever, because it touches a little bit on queer trauma, but ultimately the story is not really about queer trauma. It's just about, being a teenager in a world that really accepts that there are queer teenagers and learning to date and do all that stuff. And I enjoy those moments too. And I've said, we've had this conversation where I appreciate those stories that just leave queer trauma out on the sidelines. And, we're not going to deal with that, because not every story needs to be about that. But at the same token, we can't forget that there is a lot of traumatic events that comes with queer existence. And those stories are also important. Those coming out stories also need to be told. And again, tying it into somebody's mental health status, and, are you defined by one? And again, being from a small town, like, I know exactly what you're talking about when the person goes away for 4 days, and 20 years later, we still talk about that, or not, other people who never got out of that town, right? They're still talking about that person and the thing that they did, right? Instead of talking to them about what they did yesterday, like talking to them about who they are now, their families and stuff like that. The community can still define them by that moment, even though that doesn't make them who they are. So I appreciate that y'all, you planted that seed, and then you just went off and told this story. And there were, there were other mountains to climb, to do that, and cool superpowers.
And I think that anyone in a marginalized situation, we're at a period right now, and I hope we are seeing it in the rear view mirror. But if you are a person of color and you want to be recognized, well, you have to write trauma about being a person of color. If you're queer, your stories must be about trauma. If you're whatever, make sure it's about trauma. And man, it gets exhausting. A little old,
right?
And so one of the things that we really wanted to make sure happened was, bad stuff happens, a lot of it, and all of it, we can say we know that person or have been that person, but it doesn't end on that note, because there's no point in the perpetual, killing all your queers. Like, so over that.
Well, I really appreciate this. I also appreciate the fact that this is a comic book about a kid with superpowers who's learning to deal with superpowers. So, the trauma, the trauma of being a queer young person and everything else, a father who's dead, unhappy home life, with stepfather, and just being bullied at school, like all these things. But then guess what? Superpowers.
Think about this. I'm genuinely curious about this. Okay, so think back to the moment where you were like, damn, I'm gay. I'm going to tell someone. But at that very, very moment, you get superpowers. What are you going to tell people about first?
Exactly.
And in hindsight, I don't honestly have an answer. Because when I came out, I was pissed that there wasn't a ticker tape parade for me. There was no glitter. I was angry. I sashayed away so goddamn fast.
Well, glitter is so hard to clean up, though. I mean, but no, that's a really great question. I mean, most of the questions when it comes to superpowers is like, which one would you want, flight or invisibility? And it's like, are you a total perv or do you just like flying around?
Or
both, invisible and flight, so you can see people from a bird's eye view. Skinny dipping, I guess, because that's usually how it ends up. But yeah, I think this is just a really great project. It's a really cool project, and I did want to kind of talk about that. So it started, when you were first starting to publish it, you started it with a Kickstarter for the first episode, the first issue, correct? And from there, you had 5 issues for this, and then now you are going to be putting out the collected trade of those issues. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how, one, when is that going to be out, and then also how does one get it?
He asked the question we don't want to answer.
Oh.
So the thing about the Kickstarter was that it was actually a Kickstarter for the whole book, but because comics take a very long time, we were like, what if every time we got one of the chapters done, we release it as a single issue so that people can keep reading it while it takes us forever to finish making it?
And then add 1 year to our delivery date.
Yeah. So that's also the thing too, is that it took us longer than we thought, which also was just like very silly because I know how long it takes to draw comics. Why did I think it would take us so much less time than it actually did? I don't know. It's just unrealistic.
So,
But yeah. It's so the actual like main story is done because we have all 5 issues out now. We're putting it all together into a book, and we have like a little epilogue that we're working on right now, and then like other random fill out the book stuff. I don't know what else you're doing in there. Jeremy's doing the putting the book together stuff.
oh, I'm just waiting for you now. Now it's all your fault.
I'm drawing as fast as I can.
So what Amanda did not tell me is when I made this dumb pitch to do a comic book, she was like, you Photoshop all day long. Why don't you color the flats? And I was like, adult coloring? How hard could this possibly be?
Maniacal laugh.
There is so much grass. There is so much chain link fence. Oh my God. I never want to color chain link again.
Every time I drew a chain link fence, I got an angry message from Jeremy like, I know where you live.
Like they're in a factory. So the establishing shot is the factory surrounded by chain link. A lot of very little chain link.
And our boy wears flannel shirts too.
Oh no. Yeah, no. This was my pushback. I did not color the flannel. It was
flannel was all me.
I was done with it.
The flannel was all me. Jeremy would color in just one flat color, and I would do the flannel effect. Partially because I think I was complaining about something I had to draw, some tedious element I had to draw for like an illustration job at some point, and Jeremy had made a joke about saying he was going to put the main character in a flannel shirt to make me draw the pattern all the time. And so I did a sketch of Alec in a flannel shirt, telling him I wasn't afraid of flannel. Like, I wasn't afraid of plaid. I'm not afraid of plaid. It's fine. I can do it. And then he was like, okay, well, that's what the character wears now. And I'm like, God damn it.
It was
Called
either
my
At least it wasn't Paisley.
or dragon scale. I wanted him in full dragon scale.
He's not wearing chain link, so it's fine. It's fine.
Don't know how it would have worked with the plot, but
he's wearing chainmail. He's just a very he's a LARPer kid. I don't know. Why are we doing this?
We could have made that happen.
So I do have to say, I've been neglecting all the people who have who've joined us tonight and said hello. So I'm going to take this very quickly to just say hello to all these people who popped in. So first off, joining us was John Westhoff, throwing out the horns like he usually does. Hello, John. Bill has given us hugs back. He actually did message too that he is on his way back home. He might be able to hop on before we're done, so that'd be great. John Runyon, our friend from A Comic Book Look, Comic Book Bears Assemble. Hi, John. And then also it looks like Koti Tamer. Is that somebody that you know, Remy? Somebody?
Maybe.
Yeah, somebody from the realm of the YouTubes.
Yeah, looks like joining us from YouTube, and had a comment actually when talking about flannel. That's evil. And then also our friend David Hazan also has joined us, and made a comment here. Definitely haven't done that to artists before. Not hundreds of soldiers in chainmail or anything. Oh no! Of course not, David. You wouldn't do that. But yeah,
started with my complaining about the year of zombies. I think that might be what started it. There was one year where I had like 6 different illustration projects involving zombies, and doing one of Jeremy's book covers was one of them. And I was like, I'm so tired of drawing like torn up half insides of bodies. I'm so tired of drawing zombies. Like, they're fun, but after a while, I was over it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we were like, we should have made the superpowers like invisibility. That way, he's just not there.
Just drawing page after page of nothing.
Just footsteps in the grass going.
Yeah.
Well, that was because I was complaining about rendering fire, because doing coloring on fire, like, as much complaining as you want to do about coloring in chain link, I rendered all that fire. All right. That was a chore.
One might say she brought the heat.
I would just like to put out there also, we love what we're doing. We're the first people to complain about the mess we put ourselves in.
It's true. We did this to ourselves. We're going to complain about it the whole time, but we did this to ourselves.
But that's the craft of it. I mean, I've not met a single writer that just, that will not look at something they've written and just rip it to shreds too, though. I mean, that's part, like, and just the tediousness of sitting down and actually doing the work. And, I'm like, like Jeremy, I'm not an artist. I can't draw, but I can just imagine that's just, it's a thing. Like, I know enough artists and are just like, I can't, why do I do this to myself?
Why do I do this?
Writer artists are just like, no, I'm gonna go back in time and punch writer me in the face for artist me. But so I like the focus that you just made though on fashion, on wardrobe, right? On the clothes that these characters are wearing, because so much of that, it's setting, right? It's telling you where you're at, when you're at. You can draw a flannel shirt, and I saw it and immediately, oh yeah, this is a rural kid. That's what we wore, right? But in a different context, a flannel shirt and a band shirt, then you're in 1992 Seattle, right? Like, or and so much about fashion. I'm looking around some of the art on my wall and stuff that it sets a time and place with a single image. Did you guys have that discussion and talking about, what people need to wear? Because, I'm sitting here in a typo negative shirt, right? That says something about me and what I like and maybe who I am as a person. Somebody sees me in this typo negative shirt, they're going to form an opinion. Did y'all have that conversation? Did you flesh out what these folks would look like and what they needed to look like?
With Roxy, we did.
Yeah. You had a lot of particular notes about what Roxy was going to wear. And a lot of it, and also we knew exactly what like characters like Alex's mom, Mary, was going to wear, because she's wearing her uniform, like her work uniform. So that, like, and she's only ever in her work uniform in the story. So that, like, her primary role is like she's the one who's holding it together. She's the one who's doing her job. And then we had, like, some of the stuff was informed a lot by, like, what did we need things to do in the story. So, like, there's a particular point where, like, Alec has to like recognize a certain part of Dawn's outfit. And so, like, something being recognizable on him had to be like a key element. And so that kind of like just that necessity from the story ended up kind of developing into what we did with the rest of his wardrobe design to make it make sense. And it was like, okay, we know that we need this element. So like, why does his outfit have this element? Well, probably because of this. Okay, well then we're going to have his outfit designed this way because that makes sense with his backstory and where
Yeah.
he fits into the story now.
And we even had to go back and actually edit some of the script for that particular moment. I remember because there's a point where this character gets recognized, and I'm gonna say the original text was kind of clunky in how it happened, because it was relying on, oh well, that's obvious.
Right.
And so Amanda actually came up with a more kind of a slick visual way of doing it. And so this was always kind of I got to write the story when Amanda's visuals had to push back on it. I'm not, there's no sacred text here. Like, let's make it fit.
And I had a lot of fun with Roxy's outfit designs too, because you were like, I think in like the very first, the little mini scripts that you did that didn't end up in the actual comic, but were just you making like character vignettes, trying to figure out who the characters were. You mentioned Roxy and her like Wonder Woman shirt. And I'm like, oh, well, she's the big comic fan. So in the first issue, I put her in a Wonder Woman shirt, but also had to make sure that we never showed too much of the Wonder Woman logo at any given time. So, no, it's a Superman logo in that one. She has a Wonder Woman backpack and a Superman logo shirt, but she has like an overshirt over it. So it's like, you never really see the full logo. Please don't sue us.
But you know what it is.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
You see enough of it that you know what it is, but you never see the whole thing. Please leave us alone, DC. So
well, but
then because of that, I was like, all of her outfits are going to be superhero shirts, but I have to keep it subtle because I don't want to like use something that where we can get in trouble, copyrightable like logo. And so in the second issue, she's wearing like a Ringer shirt that's in Iron Man colors, and it just happens to have like a blue circle in the middle. And then in the rest of the issues, she's wearing a green shirt with just a big yellow X across it. So she's wearing basically like the Phoenix uniform.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So it's like, it's all stuff that it's like, if you know what we're doing, you can see it, but none of it is like super obvious because again, please don't sue us.
And then like Roxy's dad so this was a big decision when we were really early on talking about so this takes place in a fictional town called Abbey Mills, and we grew up in a logging community. And so like we lived in the nice forest area, but all the towns around us are all either log processing, truck stops, or paper factories.
Yeah, paper mills, logging, like lumber mills, a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if it changed by the time you got to high school, but when I graduated, there was exactly one not white person in the school. Not the class, the school.
There's like maybe 3 now. I don't know. It hasn't gotten much better. It's a little better, but not a lot.
We decided very early on that if we were going to push an agenda, it was that Abbey Mills needed a little bit of diversity, because where we grew up, it just wasn't a thing. So we instantly decided that Roxy needed to be a person of color. And the way the plot unfolds, Roxy's father is a sheriff. And so we knew the moment we made the decision for this to pan out this way, because originally he wasn't even part of the story. He came in a draft after. We both made comments about how, in our town, a person of color as the sheriff? Ooh, no. And so we just did it because it should happen. And so like his outfit throughout the whole thing, he's in a sheriff uniform, and I always kind of liked it because here is this person who is compassionate, empathetic, and at the same time is a person of authority and kind of wields that authority in all the ways that you would want them to. And so it might be a little fictional for where we grew up, but it was a conscious decision we made.
We have a comment here from David. I'm sure there's a Blazing Saddles joke in there somewhere.
Probably.
Probably, but no, that's definitely a good decision. And a lot of people kind of forget about New England, especially if you're not from there, that there isn't a lot of diversity in most places. The cities usually are, very, very diverse, but especially in sort of older communities, there really isn't. There's not a lot bringing people in from other areas that, would then come and settle. So it's just basically the same original families that migrated there 200, 300 years ago.
In 1824.
1824. This
they
house has
will
been in our
remind
family
you.
since my great-great-great-grandfather built it. It's
right.
And so that was another, like, the whole idea behind this comic and behind kind of the ethos of what we were doing was this was a comic we would have wanted or we needed when we were that age. And so to take it even one step further by putting Roxy in there, where we grew up, if there's a young Black girl who is reading a comic, we want her to see herself, and we want to see herself as this kick-ass heroine of she might not be the main character, but Roxy needs a spinoff.
the wheels just started turning. I just saw.
Hey, Amanda, I got an idea for a comic.
We've been going for about an hour in this interview. I think we probably have time for about one more question apiece, Steve. If you've got something, I've got something I want to ask. But I'll go ahead and ask mine first. That way you can formulate it. And I actually want to throw back to something that Amanda said, at the first of the interview when she was talking about, you're at these conventions and folks are talking to you with the hopes that, you're going to, hey, I'll do this work for free, which, that's not something we do anymore. We don't expect people to do free labor. That's just not a thing. We're done with that. Let's just not ever do that again, folks. Let's just, the free labor is just something that we don't encourage. But I also have enough writer friends to know that, being a writer does not necessarily equate to just, Scrooge McDucking into coins and Captain Moneybags either. So between the two of you as comic creators who are also, you're self-publishing, you're working in indie, how do you recommend, and this is more of a question of not necessarily, I guess, process, but just kind of just industry procedure, like what are some tips that you guys might have for comic creators who are trying to do that to partner, to work together for a writer who might not have enough money to front load a project, or for an artist who should not expect to do free labor? Can you tell us some maybe ideas, or like what do you guys recommend for that situation to make sure that everybody gets what they should get?
Do you want me to talk numbers, Amanda?
So I can say very generally that it's the biggest thing is that it is a lot of time and it's a big commitment to do comic pages. A single comic page, people ask me all the time, how long does a comic page take you? Well, it depends on the comic page. Yeah. But generally drawing and inking a comic page is going to take me, and I'm relatively fast, anywhere from 6 to 10 hours. And that's blank page to fully inked page, 6 to 10 hours on average. And that doesn't get into coloring. If you're coloring, that's another whole bunch of hours, depending on how complicated your process is and also how good you are at it. I'm not a great colorist, so it takes me a lot longer than it might take some other people. And so that's part of the big equation there, as far as like why the artists are not willing to work for free. It's not that we hate you. It's that is a big commitment. And especially if you work as a freelancer, your time is what you make your money on. Any time that I spend doing work for free is time that I give up making money on a different project. And so what we worked out as a solution was that I did enough pages so that we could have a presentable Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
We did the Kickstarter, and that gave me like essentially a rough page rate to get not a very good one, but at least some money up front of like, here's a
Okay.
payout to get going. And from there, since this is a joint venture, we are sharing anything that we actually make for profits are going to be 50-50, obviously after expenses are paid for like any books that we have to publish or maintaining our website or like sending stuff to reviewers or any of that stuff. So that's I think a really good way to do it is if you can either secure in somebody's schedule, hey, can you just like do X number of pages to get a presentable Kickstarter, or save up enough money to be like, what's your page rate for X number of pages? Here's like a small investment up front so that we can get this thing going.
Kind of a
And then
good faith.
right, and then
Yeah.
use that initial crowdfunding to like pay the page rate, and from there, whatever works as far as an equitable solution for how you share revenue going forward.
And that was a big thing right up front, was before Amanda even started the first page, I had a full script for the whole series done. And that way
You like banged out the whole series in like a day.
and that's the part that's not equitable.
And I'm like, give me a minute.
I looked this up the other day. The entire comic book, everything that I gave her, it winds up being like 9,000 words. I can literally write 9,000 words in 2 days. Not even a question. Okay, I was working as a high school teacher at the time. So then I took it to my students and I was like, what do kids really say to each other now? Fix my dialogue for me.
I don't want it to sound chuggy.
Yeah. Make it sound lit, yo. And
no,
so
Cat, this is how you speak.
I still use On Fleek. Thank you very much. Single-handedly destroying children's vernacular.
Hello, fellow youths.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn. But so I needed this whole product so she could ballpark the pages, and we came in, I think, within like 10 pages.
Pretty close, yeah.
Of what you guesstimated. And so from there, I had a lucrative enough job. If I needed to, I could have financed the first issue out of pocket. And so we paused there so we could do some assessment on our time, some assessment on what we would need to make ourselves happy. And then we started putting together the Kickstarter. And so as of right now, the Kickstarter, I mean, we still have money from the Kickstarter to cover all the stuff we still need to send out. But the Kickstarter money came in and Amanda got paid. Because even though I colored, if we were going to compare hours, it's not the same.
Right.
So that is definitely when writers want to, and I see this all the time. Now I'm so hyper aware of it. Every time a writer's like, I have this great idea for a comic. I wonder if they'll partner with me for free. And I'm like, dude, it took you like 3 hours to write this comic. It's going to take them 3 months. And like Amanda said, every time she worked on our comic was a paid gig that she was giving up somewhere else.
Right.
So first and foremost, pay her. And I have enough faith in the project. I'm the one who pitched it. So here's hoping that once everything's good and going out, that 50-50 split, that will cover my actual time invested. So I care more about it on the back end than
That's also not unusual for the way that writers and artists tend to get paid in general. Like, because very frequently as a writer, it's like, here's your little chunk of money up front, but then also, okay, we're going to just pay you a little trickle coming in for the rest of time off of that later. Or if you're self-published, you don't even get the chunk of money up front. You don't
Yeah.
make anything until you start selling it.
I haven't had well, I just recently got a trad deal for my audio, and they paid me money up front, and I was like, what is this madness?
What's in advance? I don't even know.
That was spent before it hit the bank.
Mama's gonna buy some new shoes.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
And part of this is we both went to SCAD, and their whole motto is the business of art. And I will say that one of the things that SCAD does well, if you were paying attention as a student, you don't work for free.
Right.
Yeah. You get paid for everything. Spec work is the devil.
That was one of the great benefits of having working professionals as our professors, is they're like, do not ever work for free.
Yeah. Exposure bucks are worth nothing.
No.
Yeah.
And I get yelled at when I expose too much.
Well, I mean, there is a time and a place.
Oh, true. So true.
Well, because that was a great question, Caleb. I also we had a comment here from a gentleman named Caleb Alexander McKenzie as well. This was an elaborate ruse for me to say, pay artists. Yes, please do. And writers too, but artists definitely for the amount of time that's put into it. I'm married to an artist, and he's very clear, when he was telling his students, I mean, this is a big thing, you don't work for less than your worth, because when you do, that's what people start to assume, that you want to be paid. And if that amount is zero, then those are the offers you're going to be getting. Well, you did it for free for me last time. Why not this time? Like that's.
And we've even talked about because there is another comic. This was always planned as a duology story. Because if you're going to have the first title be I Am the First, then you have to have I Am the Last. So it's art, and this has actually been brainstormed. Like, this isn't just me praying that Amanda's bored and wants some work. But we've even talked about, because time is a concern, how much is that time worth? And could we hire out and bring in another party to do the things, one, we don't want to do, or two, hire people who that's their job and they can do it at a breakneck speed better than than we can. So that has definitely been a conversation for moving forward. And you see a lot of indies doing that. We met some people at Heroes Con that, I mean, hearing their process, I was like, oh, so your artist doesn't make you color all the flats?
Best con I ever pulled, convincing Jeremy, yeah, you just do the flats. It'll be fine. It's fine. You can just do the flats. You know how to use Photoshop. It'll be easy.
I watched so much YouTube while sitting here coloring. 3 hours a night. And the only thing that saved her from me driving to Maine and slapping her was
that it was Maine.
She's put in more hours. She put in more hours than me. I secretly think that she drew each of those comics, inked them, and then finished off the rendering in like 30 minutes. And she's actually been lying to me this whole time.
I mean, that's not true, but if that makes you feel better, you can believe that. I'll let you.
Well, speaking of other projects that you guys have going on individually as well, I did want to, have this time to promote some of the other things that you guys have been working on yourselves, as creators as well. So, Amanda, tell us a little bit about Age of Night.
Age of Night is my big that's my baby. I've been doing this webcomic series for many years now. What year is it? Where are we? I don't know. It's way too long. I've been doing this for way too long. But it is my webcomic series. It's a fantasy epic quest type series. And I have 3 volumes that are released as books if you like to actually read physical books instead of waiting for 600 pages to load. And
She's not lying. That's the rough page count right now.
Of the first 3 books, yeah, because volume 4, I just finished uploading it online. You can still read the whole thing for free online, but I do sell them as books as well, and volume 4 will be coming out shortly because all the pages are done. I just need to actually put it in a book. There's volume 3. So, yeah, that's what I've been working on for a long time. It involves magic and ninjas and a talking cat who is also the god of night / chaos and can turn into a giant cat monster. And it's adventure and mysticism and all sorts of fun stuff.
Absolutely. which is actually really fun. I've read the first book, so
yay!
I'll be seeking out the other 2 the next time I see you at a con. I mean, I have to say, for those of you who do like to read webcomics online, we will have the link to that after the show as well.
It's fairly easy. It's just ageofnight.com.
Well, there you go. And that's awesome. So that is what you have also going on. But we also have Jeremy here. Has an evil identical twin that comes out by a different name.
Yeah. So I started writing. So I was a high school teacher and I hated it. And so you're not allowed to murder your students.
They frown upon that.
I was told it was against rules. So I wrote a book in which zombies took over the high school and did it for me. And I realized I really liked writing. It became kind of therapeutic. And so I took, shortly after, I took the comic book that I worked on when I was in middle school, which was very X-Men derivative. And I kind of aged it up and made it a lot more dystopian. And so that has been my kind of pet project. And there's 13 books out in that. And a year ago, I decided, you know what I want to do? I just want to write superhero smut. Because you know that scene in Chasing Amy where Stan Lee gets asked all the question about the thing? Mm-hmm. Guess what? I get to actually write about it. And I answer that question a lot. 4 or 5 times per book. And so basically, as writer, I write bearish superheroes. And it is very smutty and very romancy. They're romance books, basically. But, of course, everything I do has to have superheroes in it. So the first series is The Heroes of Vanguard. And it's just about 4 guys sitting around a breakfast table talking about their lives. And then each book follows one of them. And basically, it was an excuse for me to write David Harbour fanfic for the final book in that series.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my pitch line right there. Is I write David Harbour fanfic and
built-in fan base. I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
First you saw him in Stranger Things. Now you get to see a very strange thing. And so now I'm working on the villain series, which is really fun because these guys are assholes. I love
Excellent.
So yeah, I spend all day trying to imagine what superheroes do in the bedroom, and I get paid for it.
Excellent. Yay.
That's the best part, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the best part. Well, so while we wrap this up, why don't you guys tell everybody where they can find you? The folks who are listening and watching this, they want to know where they can get your books collectively or separately. Where can they? Where do you peddle your wares at, so to speak?
Well, I Am the First is on bravenewcomics.com. I mean, you can get it on Amazon and places like that too, but we'd rather you just get it from us.
Okay.
Preferably, just
so
get it at just get it at bravenewcomics.com. Amazon's mean to us. They keep giving us a hard time and making it difficult to upload our books.
Oh, the Legion of Evil's giving you a hard time? That's unexpected.
Shock.
They're the worst. Yeah, and you can read my comic at ageofnight.com, and that's just AGEOFNIGHT.com. You can follow me all over the internet at either Age of Night or Amanda Kahl Art. Those are my online handles. My last name is spelled funny, by the way. If you're not seeing this written out, it's spelled KAHL. So,
Yeah, you can find my superhero, where their clothes stay on, is remyflag.com. And then my smutty alter ego, Ryder O'Malley, is at authorrydero'malley.com. Don't confuse the two, because that's going to be horribly awkward.
Yeah. And I also heard you guys talk about Heroes Con. Are you planning a return visit this year?
Yeah. Are you, Amanda?
I don't know.
If it makes any difference, I'm gonna be there.
I would love to do Heroes Con again. It's very difficult for me to get to conventions that are that far away, because it takes a concerted effort to escape the state of Maine. I live so far in the boonies that it takes me like 4 hours to just escape the state before I can even start making progress toward anywhere else. So
and then from there it's like 13 hours.
Right. Yeah. So that like 4 hours just gets me out of the state. And then it's still like another hour and a half before I can get to Boston. And then it's like, okay, now the rest of the world you can start your journey towards. So
and the Charlotte airport is just so wonderful.
Oh my gosh. World's most chaotic airport. I have never been so like confused in an airport.
Go to
it's hard that's one of the world's busiest now. It is one of the world's busiest airports.
I've been to Atlanta.
They're still under construction.
And at least Atlanta did not have giant holes in the wall anytime I was there. Okay, like Charlotte has giant like walls missing, and there's just a sheet of
excuse our dust for the next 5 to 10 years.
Excuse our dust. Where do you go? We don't know. Don't worry about it. Plastic sheeting.
Well, hopefully, if you do get to make it, I know a lot of us are going to be there. I, would look forward to meeting you in person. We'll have to do this again sometime. It was fantastic. Hopefully we can get Bill back in here. He is a much better, flagship person. I don't know what you call people who walk in the front of parades. That person though, I'm a bad gay. I don't know what we call those, the parade people. But he'll be back next
color
time.
guard. I don't know. Like, is he
the color guard are the people with the flags.
I just go to them. I'm usually in the back with half a shirt on somewhere. But we really appreciate y'all coming on and telling us about it. We really do hope all of our listeners are intrigued by this. They want to go check it out. The story I can say, from the pieces of it I've read, is worthwhile. It is worth the read. Thank you for bringing this into the world. We really do appreciate it. I know you guys are in a different time zone. You are more than welcome to stick around. I think Steve and I are going to chat about a comic before we wrap things up. And then send this thing home. But if you would like to stay, you're more than welcome to. Obviously, no obligation. We know that y'all have lives outside of doing Comic Book Bear live streams too. So just let us know what you want to do, and we will go from there.
I have small children that will be up early in the morning, so I'm gonna say goodnight and thank you so much for having us. I had a great time. This was fantastic. I hope I do get a chance to come back sometime soon.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you again for joining us, and have a safe, wonderful trip tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
And I will peace out as well. I hope you guys enjoy I am going to be looking forward to hearing about Mean Girls. So,
yes,
which I am going to go watch in just a minute.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Enjoy
Wait,
it.
the original or the remake?
Watch the original last night, remake tonight.
Okay.
Woohoo.
Well,
Respect.
I will be curious to hear thoughts.
Well, Jeremy,
Yes.
thank you for coming on, and again, thank you for everything you put out in the world. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anytime.
Take care, gentlemen.
Bye.
See you later. Bye. Awesome. Yay.
That was so much fun.
It was fun. I had originally met them last year at Heroes Con. Jeremy I've talked to for a while before that as well. I was just sort of like, when can we get them on? Because I really want to talk about this book. When I picked up the first issue last year, I was like, I really want to talk about this book.
Now, this wasn't the same Heroes Con you pretended to be sick so you didn't have to hang out with me, right?
Pretended to be sick. No, this is last year when I wasn't sick and you decided not to come.
Fair enough. Well, Steve, I know that you have read a comic, and I have also read a comic. Why don't we stick with our usual game plan? I have not heard from our beloved leader whether or not he's going to be able to tap in yet or not. But if he does, we'll be sure to get him in here. But why don't we just pitch things over to you to tell me what you've been reading? Tell me, intrigue me. I want to know. Regale me with these stories.
Well, so I apparently really enjoy oversized format books now. It just seems to be a thing. Like every several weeks, I'm picking up a large format book, and I don't know why. Maybe because there's so many great ones.
Size does matter.
Size
does matter.
I think it's maybe just because so many different publishers are now doing this. I mean, this is something that for a while, like, it was rare. If you saw something that was like probably European,
Yeah.
But lately, I mean, companies like IDW, DC with their Black Label, and now even Dark Horse. Image, of course, has a couple large format books, but Dark Horse just really kind of stepped on the scene here with a new book from Matt Kint, Dan McDade, and Bill Crabtree on colors, Jim Campbell on letters. And it's called If You Find This, I'm Already Dead. Now, it's a large format book. It is not square bound, so it's standard magazine format. And the page quality is very different. It looks like newsprint. So, it even smells like newsprint. It just has that feel. It's thicker, so it's definitely a good quality paper, but it feels like newsprint, smells like newsprint, just kind of feels like you're a kid almost picking up a comic for the first time with tiny hands. Now, I do have Circus Folk hands anyway, but this just kind of brings me back to sort of like being a little kid picking up a comic for the first time. And this book, again, If You Find This, I'm Already Dead. And I do have some images here from it, so you can get a better look at it. In this takes place sort of in the near future, where an artifact, essentially a quantum gate, is found, orbiting Earth just outside the moon's area, and it is a gateway to another dimension, a sort of like a quantum pocket dimension. And there are planets, there are things there. And over the course of 5 years, the military has set up an outpost in this planet, and have been sending people there to just kind of, mostly military, to go and, study the environment and sort of check things out with the express desire, as is always the case, of finding a way to exploit the resources to make money off of it. Like, this is a money-making venture. These people are not out for exploration and, just being there for the joy of it. They're there, to set up, basically ownership, if you will. And so in this first issue, it's described. The narrator for this issue is a journalist who was the first civilian to go through the gate, and Matt Kint is, as always, brilliant. He likes to set things up and then kind of flip the script or change things a little bit in a way that you don't really expect. Some beautiful artwork. This is an alternate cover of this, just really gorgeous. But he really sets up the premise by introducing the reader to multiple very tropey sci-fi military characters. Like here's the language expert, here's the diplomacy expert, here's the muscle, here's the demolitions guy because he likes to blow stuff up. He's so tough. Everybody's so tough. And then of course here's here's the lady reporter. She's a civilian. She doesn't really know what's going on here, but she's embedded. She's going to be the eyes and ears and the mouthpiece for everybody back on Earth to see what this place is all about. And they come in, they land at this forward base that's been meticulously built and created over the past 5 years with great defenses and everything. And within 5 minutes of her arrival, all hell breaks loose and everyone dies except for her and one of the soldiers, the corporal. And the book then goes and follows these two as they try to escape, sort of the menacing militant alien creatures that are pursuing them. And they end up in, these beautiful underground ruins, these temples, these, surrounded by people in a marketplace, alien life. That they try to hide and blend in and everything. And because of the frantic pace of their, just knowing, hey, everybody's been killed. We need to get out of here. We need to escape. We're stuck here on this planet in this dimension. We can't get back because our ride's been just completely destroyed. We just need to survive. She still managed the narrator, the journalist here still manages to have that curiosity of somebody who's like, I'm running for my life, but oh my God, we're surrounded by aliens. We're surrounded by people, people of all shapes and sizes and colors and all sorts of things. And I'm fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. But also, oh my God, what we thought was unique to humanity. No, like these other civilizations can also treat each other horribly too, make the same kind of violent mistakes or purposeful, just negative things happen. And it's a great setup. I mean, this is it. It keeps going and going and going. Like after this first introductory section, they're just running. I mean, they run the whole time. They're hiding. They're trying to stay alive. And it doesn't look too good for her. Now, this is a 3-issue series, I believe. And parts 2 and 3 come out. It's coming out monthly from Dark Horse. But man, I mean, it's looking bleak for her already at the end of the first issue. I loved it. I love Matt Kindt. I mean, Matt Kindt's got some wonderful books.
Yep. One of my favorite writers.
This one, I mean, like the last one I read of his was Spy Superb, and this book is very different from Spy Superb. So if you're looking for more of like a, kind of a, an intriguing but quietly paced mystery spy thriller, or one
something
of his
more
like Mind
something
MGMT.
More, yeah, I was going to say something more akin to mind management. Yeah.
I mean, this is much more action oriented, much more hard sci-fi, but it's still just written very brilliantly. This kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that he did for Valiant, with like the Bloodshot Reborn series. Just like that kind of, he does have a great job of keeping up that pace and that action, which is great. And again, large format book, but it is not overpriced. I think this was it's $8, which I think is about average for these large format books now. But loved it. Can't wait for the rest.
Well, this is not the book I'm going to talk about, but this is actually, I think, he's been doing a couple of these for Dark Horse. At some point, you're going to hear me talk about Subgenre, which is another Matt Kindt book that he did. Again, oversized, large format. He did this with Wilfredo Torres and Bill Crabtree. And again, this showcases Matt Kindt's predilections for genre, period. Like he does the same thing. He mixes in, spy, barbarians, right? Fantasy, high fantasy, low fantasy. He plays with it all. And really, it's a meta commentary about, hey, like what's the old Shakespearean thing? There's actually 7 stories, and we just throw the same tropes in different situations, see what comes out. And that's what subgenre is, right? It's playing with that idea. And if you ever read a Matt Kent book, you mentioned the paper. Does not surprise me. Like, Matt Kent is meticulous when he creates these books. He thinks about texture. He thinks he'll burn paper on his and then photocopy it to get it the effect he wants. And he'll burn your paper in real life. If you go up to him and you take a book up to him, he'll play with it. He'll rip things, and he'll take a lighter and he'll burn it and give it that real effect.
I'll ask him next time I see him, because I do try to see him every time he's at Charlotte.
Yeah.
So we have a certain gentleman who is backstage, Mr. William Zanowitz.
Is he ready to close up?
Let's bring him in. Is he ready for his close up? Let's have him answer that.
Took me a while to get in here. You must have thought I was some stage door Johnny.
I've been.
We were building the suspense.
My coup is over.
I can't. Well, let me tell you. I just found it very interesting about how Caleb has just leapfrogged over Steve as my Eve Harrington. So that was a treat watching the beginning. That was very funny.
Steve made that call. I told Steve, you call the shots. You tell me what you want me to do. And he's like, you're going to do the introduction. I was like, okay, let's go for it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. But I'm very happy I made it to the show. And it's an unbroken record here.
Yes.
Sorry I couldn't get here earlier tonight, but that's the way things go.
Yeah.
But keep going about the Matt King book, please.
Well, I'm done with what I wanted to say about Matt King, but subgenre, I need to check that out. So thank you.
You do, and I think it's actually. So. You said that was a 3-issue series. I think subgenre is a 4-issue series. It ended in a way that it makes me think that there should be something else. I need to double check on that. I am holding off on that 4th issue because I do want to talk about it on the show. If I find out it's a 3-issue series like your series, I'm going to bring it the next time we talk because it's too good not to. Unfortunately, my LCS was out of the book that you just spoke about. And I do not have my copy yet, but I really, really want it. I want it real bad.
Steve, what book were you talking about?
So I was talking about If You Find This, I'm Already Dead.
Okay.
It's, Dark Horse, their Flex House.
Okay.
And I noticed that Caleb has changed his title to Homoflexual. Probably not related to Flex House, but just being jacked and stuff.
Just me reading. Somebody referred to me as that the other day, and I'm like, wait, have I finally found my gay subcategory? Because I'm not hairy, so I can't be an otter. I'm not big enough to be a bear or a cub anymore. So I'm the naked mole rat that appropriates bear culture, or I can be a homoflexual. I'm too old to be a twunk. I'm not a twink. I refuse to be. I don't know where I am. I'm just here.
I'm just here.
I'm just Ken.
I'm just Ken. Yes.
All right. So, Steve, are we ready to move on? Can I talk about it?
I'm ready to move on. I want to hear about your book.
All right, awesome. So we're going to stick with like the indie realms. Like you spoke about a Dark Horse. I'm going to go over to our friends at Vault Comics. It's been a little bit since we've spoken about a Vault book. I actually really like that publisher. They were really on my radar for like a year, and I got everything that they put out. But now, like for a little bit, they backed off. But they put out a book recently. I got the first issue of it, and I'm glad I picked it up. I'm very, very happy with it. And this book is called Beyond Real. It is a relatively newer book. I don't think the second issue is out. I broke my rule for this where I was going to, I let it stack up. The book is written by Zach Kaplan. It's got a team of artists on it. It's got Fabiana Mascolo and Tony Fejula are the artists on it, with colors by the amazing Jordi Belair, and Tony Fejula does colors as well. And letters by one of the best letterers in the business. Like literally as a letterer, you say that we don't notice lettering a lot unless it's bad, but Hassan Otsman Allahu is actually one of the best letterers in this industry right now. And when he does letters, you notice it because it's good. Like he does a great job about making the lettering really bring out the inflections that he's wanting to. So this story is, it really is. I did not know what to expect about it, and it took me by surprise. One of the first things you see when you first open up the book is your two main characters are laying on top of a car looking at the night sky, and just it looks like they took the if they had done this digitally, they took the erase feature and they painted life is an illusion in the sky. And that really is the foundation, the launch pad for what this story is. Your two main characters in this book are a couple. They are June and Eli, and they are very different people. June is an artist. She is very introspective. She wants to, she thinks that things flow a certain way, and she believes in chaos, and nothing else is, it's not settled in stone. Eli, on the other hand, is a computer person, right? He's meticulous, and he's one of those people that I think he maybe he watched The Matrix too many times as an adolescent, and he grew up to be one of those folks that I don't know if he's dead serious or just joking, but believes that the world to some degree is just a computer simulation, which is a thing now. Like, there are people who actually think that, like, we're all simulations. Most notably, megalomaniac multi-billionaire Elon Musk is very much convinced the world is a simulation, and he's the main character in a computer story. Like, that's in real life. Our main character Eli is not that, right? Like, they're just having a conversation, but they're talking about how they view the world differently because of that. One of them does not want to imagine that everything is predetermined, right? It's all set out in code and stuff, and he's just laying out that, hey, even if it was, it doesn't matter. We still experience it the same way. They have this really cute coupley moment, introspection, and they get in the car and there's a kiss, and it's very much that these two are very fond of each other. They're very affectionate. And they've got their whole lives ahead of each other and planned out, until you see them in the middle of an intersection and the headlights of a vehicle slam into them. And they are both very, very hurt. Eli is still conscious through part of it, and June is not, but they're rolling June over and they're like, June, we've got to give you a spinal tap. She's not there. And you're thinking, okay, like, Eli is going to come out of this and June is not. The exact opposite happens. The book flips on you. Without going through too much of a spoilers, that's in the first couple of pages, right? Eli has actually had a massive brain issue, right? Brain trauma, and is unconscious now. And June wakes up and she's trying to go about figuring out how to live her life in this world when the person that she loves is in a coma. And as she starts to get back in society, she starts realizing, hey, things aren't like they're supposed to be, right? Like, I'm hearing narration and I'm not supposed to. And like, when I move, things move with me, almost like a glitch in the game. And as she goes through this, she starts to see, I'm just going to go with the illusion, right? She starts to see cracks in the matrix where she's starting to see code, and she starts to hear a voice, and she finally confronts it, and she's like, what are you? And he, like, what's going on? And, it's like the code can't recognize players. And she's like, I'm not a player. And, what this happened after the wreck, and, cure Eli and fix him. If you're the guy behind the game, right? If you're the wizard, if you're the man behind the curtain, fix it. And it's only the creator has the right to fix the algorithm or go into the code. So she's literally seeing that he was right? We are a simulation, and she, at least to some degree, is seeing past this. And I'll let you figure out where the book goes from there. The turn is the neat part for me, where you're seeing, and it makes me think that there's a thing here, right? This could be unconscious. She could be dreaming. I hope it doesn't go there, because I never liked that trope, but because you see them in the hospital and he's awake and she's not, and then all of a sudden it flips on you, I'm wondering if this is something happening in her head, his head. Like, I don't know. I'm curious to see where that comes out. I like this trope, though. There's been several stories that there are similarities from this. They're not breaking new ground, but they're finding a new way to dive into it. For me, the art is the strong point, as it is with a lot of stories. Y'all know, I am drawn to comics because of the art. Like, front and foremost, I need the story to be there, but you give me a quality visual and I can be much more forgiving. This art is so layered. Half of the book, the only way I can describe it is if you've ever looked through a window that had little, almost imperceptible, but definitely there's smudges on it, and you can see things, but you can still see what's behind it. a lot of the books drawn like that, where there are things that are just in the forefront that you are looking through and you can't make it out and you don't know what it is. It's like looking through glass with heavily translucent writing on it, but something is on the other side. It's really well done. And I don't know how much of that is, I don't know how much of that is Jordi Belair or how much of it is Tony Fajula, but it's an incredible effect. And Jordi's colors are used well here. There's a reason Jordi Belair is a multi-Eisner Award-winning colorist for her work. She just nails the tone in everything. Her understanding of the color wheel and of tertiary colors is just outstanding. I really cannot wait on this second issue. I need to know more. I want to know how this world is unraveling. I want to know the psychosis of the character, what's real and what's not, because you genuinely don't know, and that excites me. When I can't, and we've read genre, we've read fiction a long time. We all can kind of pick up on the mechanics and the formula behind a book. I can't really tell what's happening here, and I like that because it keeps me on my toes as a reader. So go pick the book up. It's excellent. It's called Beyond Real, again, from our friends over at Vault Comics.
Awesome. And Mr. Zanowitz, do you have a comic to share with us?
No, I don't. I do not have a comic to share. I've been a little busy.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. But I started getting, if you can see here, because you can see like this mountain of albums here. I have started getting them in order, the unread ones. So
what is the big Jamie Hernandez tome behind you?
Oh, this is the art of Jamie Hernandez, The Secrets and Stories of Life. Introduction by Alison Bechtel. It's from Abrams Comic Craft, which to me is like just as valuable an imprint as Fantagraphics in terms of this kind of stuff. And it's essentially an art book. But it does have some full stories in it too. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you might like that.
And well, so this is, I'm gonna comic book confession time, right? I've never read Love and Rockets. I am not. Yeah, nope. It is on my list. It is on my list of things I've got to read. The Hernandez brothers are I'm
not putting hand in head because somebody your age has not read Love and Rockets. I'm putting hand in head because you haven't read Love and Rockets, and there is so much in there that you would immediately gravitate toward.
Okay.
So I hope at some point you do. It's a little different now because they have collections that are specifically around the various storylines that you could go to, where like the first issue of Love and Rockets will take you 3 days to read. The printing in it, the stories are so small. And there was something so exciting about getting those issues. I read Love and Rockets all through college. Like that was basically my college years was Love and Rockets. I stopped at like whatever the issue was with the chicken on the cover, whatever that. It was like somewhere in the mid-20s. So I don't have an extensive knowledge of what happened after that, but for the first, I would say 25, 26 issues, I was there. But you definitely should, again, some of it is the time that it came out in.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I think it's aged very well in terms of See, I guess I do have a book to talk about.
I was going to say, do you like how I tricked Bill into talking about a comic?
So, and however you do decide to investigate it, whether it is one of the collections that just has the issues, or if it does, if it's a Luca collection, or I think you will get a lot out of it, and I do hope you read it at some point.
So I will. I am actually just now starting the last omnibus of Lone Wolf and Cub, and that's been like finding all of those and reading all of those has been a passion project for like 2 years now, and so I'm finally finishing it. After that, my big goal is I want to read the first 2 omnibuses of the Fantastic Four, just so I can say I've read it all the way through. And my next after that is I want to actually start diving into Love and Rockets. That is my next big collection that I want.
If you were doing that with Fantastic Four, I would just keep going through Kirby.
Yeah.
Because you can see a shift around the Silver Surfer where Jack had more to do with the stories, but at the same token, that made Stan a better writer.
Yeah.
The dialogue improves tremendously once you get to Silver Surfer and Black Panther and the Inhumans, like the mid-50s issues. So if you were going to go for the first two, I would just keep going and just complete Kirby.
So I've got
that's part of the transition where it became like less declarative and more like we're going to have actual conversations. We're going to have actual.
Yeah, it became less of a of like everybody's grumbling with each other's soap opera stuff, and became more a family,
right,
in a sense. Yeah.
I've got the first two Fantastic Four omnibuses. I'm trying to remember when Jack got off that. So I'm not sure.
For some reason, I thought they were like they went beyond two, but I
don't know.
Yeah,
I've got them. I need to read them. So, but that's my goal is once.
But in terms of the numbers, I think 104 is when he's off, and then there's like one issue that was a catalog. It was like a back issue, like in the pocket. If they skipped, and I think that's split into two issues as like flashback or something, but like around 103, 104, you get that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll check that out. It's something like I said, I need to say I've been like one of those things I feel like I need to read. After that, I am really going to put a lot of effort into reading Love and Rocket. It was a toss up between that and Akira because I do actually want to go back and read Akira. But Love and Rockets is definitely probably more my speed. Yeah, so I want to check that out. Well, all right. Well, we've spoken about comics. We even got comics out of Bill. Rolled in high. With his Kiss t-shirt. I like your t-shirt.
His Kiss t-shirt, yeah.
Kiss. Do we want to do like really quick geek gets? I'm not sure if we all have.
I do have one geek get.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
If I can show this off, I know I said after the DC Extended Universe ends that I'm basically stopping with the Funko Pops unless it's something that I had to get. And though I'm in my daddy years, I still I'm forever be a sucker for the Ruthless Silver Daddy, and I was a sucker for the Ruthless Silver Daddy in the form of Balin's skull as a Funko Pop.
Yep.
I just had to get him. He's mine.
The commemorative Balin.
Maybe I'm his. There we go. If anybody else has a geek yet, I know I do. I have a new poster. This is a Spider-Punk poster. Nice. It's beautiful. It is, I believe, one of the variant covers for the new issue 1 of whatever miniseries that they're having out now. I'm terrible with like Marvel Spider-Man series. There's so many, but I believe that is image of number 1. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, did you guys do news at all?
We did not.
We didn't. There was a lot of news coming out of Comics Pro. I think we can talk about it some, but just between the announcement of the new Ultimates, Jason Aaron writing Uncle Scrooge, the DC returning to Wednesdays for new book day, and also the what else was the other thing? Oh, DC having like their own Marvel Epic Collection type of line. Oh yeah. There was a lot of stuff that came out of Comics Pro on its first day.
Yeah, so I didn't even know about I didn't even hear about the DC moving back to Wednesdays thing. Work has been, and so this is going to go back into why I don't have a geek yet this week. I legit don't. Between work and us being gone all of last weekend and going to be gone all this weekend, I have not bought anything. I went to the used record store like 2 weeks ago and came home with some stuff, but that's it. Like I have not picked up any records, no toys, no fun books that aren't comics. I got nothing. I just this weekend's probably going to be the same. So I'm sorry.
Sometimes it's like that, you get
that's like my normal. It's just when that happens. So
and work has been so slammed. I didn't even hear about half of the Comics Pro stuff that you just rattled off.
And I found out about that because I was finally able to get on the phone and review stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping tomorrow is a fairly easy day because they have the Pearl Jam on sale and I'm in the wait list. So we'll see.
Awesome.
So is the concert husband, and he's like determined to get in because I don't think we've seen them since 2016. Haven't had that many opportunities.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, have they been on tour much since?
They have, but they've been doing like very short tours, and they've had like if you're in Chicago, for some reason, Chicago gets them more than any other city apart from Seattle. But they just haven't come around here, you know. They just haven't, you know. So I think 2016 was the last time we saw them. So
I saw where Slayer is doing a reunion tour. I might try to get tickets to that.
I thought that was just Kerry King.
No, Kerry King's doing a solo thing. Slayer just announced that they're doing a reunion tour.
They got to do it with Kerry, though.
I think they would have to. I don't know if I saw a post earlier, but I can't tell. I could not tell if it was a joke or if this was real life, where it was saying that Kerry King had not been invited on the tour, and I'm just like, you can't have Slayer without Kerry King.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not him. It's not Slayer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was serious or not because half the metal pages I follow are some dude in a basement. Yeah. So I don't know.
I haven't been to a concert in a while.
I love that magazine.
My first concert is March 10th after a big gap, which is Porno for Pyros.
Yeah.
And then April goes nuts. April, I'm like, I think I have like 8 concerts.
Wow.
Two nights in a row. You know, so
taking the Hubs to see Hozier in April. That's the first concert on my list for the year.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be an Indigo Girls or Tori Amos thing or something like that.
Did you say Tori Amos?
Yeah. We saw. I think we've seen her pretty much every year for the past several years since before, you know, not including COVID, obviously. But
yeah.
And Indigo Girls at least once or twice a year.
I got to see who's coming around local. I want to go see some shows. I miss going to shows as much, and we've got some really good venues here. So, but it's also Little Rock. So
there's also some theater I really want to see. You know.
Yeah.
Considering I saw the Who's Tommy 11 times on Broadway when it ran in 93, 94, I don't think I'll go that crazy, but I'll be seeing that, you know, at least more than once. When they have that revival. So just some stuff. And then there's some other stuff where like I'll make a decision late because there will be tickets. Like they have I've never been to one of those shows where they where there's a symphony playing against the film, and they're doing that with the Batman '89, and I'm not crazy. Like Danny Elfman, Oingo Boingo, like not a favorite, but I do think that score works, you know. Mm-hmm. So I might be up for that. And so there's things like that. I'm still waiting on Judas Priest because Judas Priest are the ultimate band for the other side of surge pricing, you know, where there's people like had like a $170 ticket for Depeche Mode that suddenly was like $400. Judas Priest are on the other side because the venues they play, they never fill because there just aren't that many 10,000, 9,000 seat arenas. You know, they're all 17,000 or so. So on the other end of that, like I've gotten like $120 tickets for like 37
nice.
like from Ticketmaster. So I'm just waiting on the talk to Bill because he knows some of the tricks.
I just want to go see Judas Priest with you. Like, I want you, me, and Rob Halford to be in the same room, and he, you know, it just needs to happen.
I would make that too. I just would prefer it not be a concert.
Right? Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I thought that's what you were talking about. Really.
Look, I let people reach their own conclusions. It's not about me. It's about them.
Like I said, I'm a sucker for the ruthless silver daddies, and he's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
the Bears. It's a bear podcast.
Yep.
Well, speaking of bear podcast, I do have to do this. I was going to save it for sort of like a partial wolf, but I'm just going to throw it out there because it kind of is like news. So around Pride this year, Marvel is putting out a new X-Men wedding special for Mystique and Destiny getting married. But what's really making the rounds is one of the variant covers that's drawn by Russell Dowderman, featuring Iceman and possible buddy Hercules, which is just glorious. I mean, everybody else on the cover is also pretty awesome. You can kind of see,
that is
over
a
there,
beautiful cover, and
it's a gorgeous.
That was one thing. If I ever was a professional comic writer, one of my pitches would be the Champions, but it's set in the 70s and everybody's on coke, and Hercules has done every member of the group except for Ghost Rider. It's like a disco party. It would just be insane. So I'm so happy to see this cover.
Is Hercules and Marvel, or whatever, the Kid Marvel, are they not a couple anymore?
I mean, who knows? Who keeps up? Yeah. Who was writing them at that point?
Yeah,
that's a good. Yeah.
I mean, this is Kieran. So Kieran Gillen is, I believe, writing this issue. So I mean,
Russell was a beautiful Hercules. I mean, he got that chest hair perfect.
I mean, look at that nipple. Just look at it.
I mean, it's shiny. It's so perfect.
And the one eyebrow is slightly raised, and it's perfect.
He's doing but he is. I mean, look at these lips. He's doing bare face smile. He's doing the bare face right there. So
I want one.
I want one too.
I want one. I'd like one. I feel like a man. No, seriously, I'd like a man.
Mine.
But you were very close to becoming Miss Swan for a second. Anyway. Well, speaking of whoofs of the week, are we there for whoofs of the week yet?
I think so.
I think because we're done with Gats. I guess
I believe so.
Chugging right along.
Bill, do you want to take the reins?
No, I did not come in driving the bus, and I prefer to have my seat.
Well, folks, it is that time then. So as we get ready to close out a show, we usually do that with a segment we like to call the Woofs of the Week. And as always, what that means is when you, in the bear community, when you like a fella, you woof at him. You got to get a little gravel in your voice, get that one eyebrow raised, get that bear smile that that Steve was talking about. It'll just pull them in. So, Steve, as always, we turn to you first. What is your woof of the week?
So my woof of the week, and Jeremy kind of touched on it a little bit earlier when he was on, is going to be Mean Girls the Musical, the movie of the musical. I did not see it when it was in the theater, but I did see it as soon as it came out on VOD. In fact, the day it came out on VOD, I caught it. My husband has worked the show several times now. The Broadway, the traveling, touring Broadway show. Mm-hmm. And, I've asked him about it because I hadn't seen it. And he was like, the music's okay. And, it is what it is. I absolutely loved this movie. I hadn't heard any of the music before. So it was all new to me. I think they staged it extremely well. Of course, through the magic of cinema, they can do all sorts of interesting things that you can't really do on stage. In the same way, so I think they were a little bit more free and flexible to do some things with the film that they can't really pull off on stage as well. But I think it was a really great retelling of the Mean Girls movie story, which, I mean, at this point is almost 20 years old, but it feels like it's a big cultural moment that's a little bit, beyond my age. It's younger. I mean, maybe Caleb, maybe you had a little bit more connection to this when it came out, but I love this movie from my little gay heart. Even though I was at that point like 10 years away from high school when it first came out. But I just thought that they did a really great job restaging this film as a musical, this play as a film musical. Based on the original movie itself. Tina Fey makes an appearance, has some really fun moments. But I think the cast was so perfect for this. They did an amazing job. Music was fun. yeah, I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, go see it, or check it out. It's I think streaming on Paramount Plus or something, starting in a couple weeks. So
gonna have to add it to my list. I want to. I love that movie. It's one of those movies. It's quotable. You just he doesn't even go here. So I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yep. Excellent.
Well, all right. Well, like Steve, my Wolf of the Week goes out to something I've watched, but unlike Steve, mine is a television show, which is different. I know Steve usually takes care of the TV for us. I have been watching and thoroughly enjoying, I might add, season 4 of True Detective. This is Night Country. It is. So when season 1 of True Detective came out, I thought it was fantastic. One of the best written shows. It walked the line of the Lovecraftian King in Yellow type of genre that you don't know what's real and what's not. It did a great job. Did not enjoy season 2. I tapped out. Didn't try season 3. But I'd heard folks that I truly trust their opinion on it say, hey, season 4 of True Detective, they get back to their roots. They go back to exactly what made season 1 work. They're going into the weirdness. You don't know what's there and what's not there. The cast is amazing. And they were not wrong. You've got Jodie Foster and Callie Reese, who both steer the ship. They headline the show. They are a great duo. They have this tension between them that it just, when they walk into a room, you can tell that there's a history there. There's something going on. But they also have a great chemistry on screen together. This is up in Alaska. This is 30 Days of Night territory, right? Like it is dark for forever there, and bad things are happening. A team of scientists just up and walked out into the ice and were frozen, but they're all like, it's weird. And nobody knows what's happening, and people are seeing ghosts and all kinds of just spooky, creepy, eerie things are happening. It's amazing. I am all on board. I would sit down at home and binge watch this till the end if I could. So if you have nothing going on and you have time to watch a TV show and you have HBO, check out True Detective Season 4, Night Country. You do not need to have watched any other episodes or seasons of True Detective. This is all encompassed in this 4th season. Go for it. And if you like it, watch season 1.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
I might check it out. I watched most of season 1, but
I have season 1 and 2 on a drive, and I've never watched them. The only thing I've heard that is negative about season 4 is some of the music choices are loopy. I don't know if that's anything that you noticed, Caleb.
It didn't affect me as much. I've heard that, and I know what they're talking about when they say that. But there was I think it was one of those things where the lyrics of the song matched the moment, if not the tone and the tenor of the song didn't. So I see what they were doing there. It didn't affect me as much.
Okay.
I have a thing for Woody Harrelson, and he's in season 1, and that was fun for me. So really enjoyed it. Well, all right. Well, I think we're about ready to put this thing to bed. We hope you have.
I have a Wolf of the Week.
I didn't know you didn't say anything.
I have a Wolf of the Week. I was waiting for my slot.
I'm sorry, Bill, Daddy. What's your Wolf of the Week?
Okay. So, Steve chose a film. Caleb chose a TV. I'm choosing something you listen to. If you've been following my posts, you would know that I have been watching old rock and roll films from the 1950s, and I'm at almost there. I've got have to post about 58, have to get through 59, and then time out. It's enough rock and roll, early rock and roll. But I've been listening to a lot of this stuff as well, and a lot of it's second nature, but one artist that I just think, there's certain artists that you just, once you hear them, you just keep going. And, for me, from that time period, it's Little Richard and Buddy Holly and Elvis Presley. Mm-hmm. And, but I wanted to hear Elvis in a different context. Now, one of the most valuable experiences I had in becoming a fan was in 1981. there was a 30-hour radio series on the Beatles called The Beatles, The Days in Their Life. And 30 hours, they play every single Beatles studio recording, go through the stories, and then go into the years. Now, 81, Lennon had just died a few months later. They then revived it in 83 and 87 with some supplemental materials, but the first time that they did this was in 81. And I just have so many fond memories of me. In the New York market, it aired from 7 to 8 p.m. for, a 30-hour program. It aired for like 6 weeks. And it was like that. It's like that. What do you call it? We had like a really warm April. So it was like April through June or so.
Yeah.
And I just have so many fond memories of me and two of my neighbors, Ariadne Alexudis and Danny Weber, with this little boom box at Ariadne's backyard, listening to it every night for the new episode, and just enhancing my knowledge. And it was just a wonderful thing. I did not know that there was a companion series about Elvis, and I found this on YouTube. It's much shorter. It started earlier. I think 74 was the first time they did it, and then when he died in 77, they supplemented it. And it's called The Elvis Presley Story, not as an imaginative title as the Beatles, but I found it on YouTube, and it's just a really novel way of hearing an artist's repertoire, supplemented by interviews, and in some ways these are like almost like podcasts before they were podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find the Beatles, that's fairly easy to find. I was only able to find Elvis on YouTube, and there's some episodes missing. There's a second episode which deals specifically with the Sun record years, and there's the estate of one of the writers of one of the Sun records is notoriously litigious, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason that one's out of circulation. But they have them in those packs, so you can play all and then go through it. And especially if you don't know about Elvis's history, this is a really fun way of doing it without, because most of the videos, most of the TV stuff, there's a salacious element to it, and here you just don't get that. It was before we knew about like some of the crazy shit, Yeah. And it's just a very well produced program. So the Elvis Presley Story on YouTube has, I believe, 12 of the 14 episodes, and I've been through 3 of them, and I'm really enjoying it. And so that's my wolf of the week.
Awesome.
Gonna have to check that out. I enjoy those. It goes back to come out like me listening to that the new podcast, the interview podcast with musicians that I've been just listening to, like it's gonna go away, like it's on fire. Yeah. I really do enjoy that, because I was listening to the one with the writer of the song Elvira, who also has written a billion other things that we've heard, and he just talks about his process and stuff, and it's very much of a time. So good though. I love getting in that zone. Yeah. So thank you for pointing me in that direction.
Well, and then if I can just editorialize for a second, I apologize for missing most of the show. I'm glad I got on here with my unbroken record. But I know I'm speaking in terms of my colleagues here. We're all people in varying degrees that have had people that we love in our lives that have dealt with addiction and all the nonsense that comes with it. And I just want to wish everybody out there, just take care of yourselves. And if you do find that you have a vice that is having, more than a detrimental effect on your daily life, just seek help. Seek help, even if it's just talking to a friend about this stuff. I think that might go a long way for certain people. And I don't want to get too specific about the situation that I'm dealing with within a core group of friends of mine, but just a wish for everybody that's listening: just take care of yourselves, because things can change for you on a dime. And self-inflicted wounds are the worst, and just be cognizant if you are having a problem, and seek what you need to seek to make it better. So,
yeah. Very, very well said.
Big booking, but that's all I can do right now. But
hugs, big hugs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hugs to you all.
There's good out.
I can't wait to hear Caleb's outro. So,
all right. Well, is that permission to land the plane?
Absolutely.
I'm not weird. I'm not used to the Bill in the passive role. I'm used to the Bill's like, yeah, it's time. No, shut up. We're going forward. We're like, I got to get used to.
Well, I'm used to Bill in the passive role.
Look, wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah. So, well, all right, dear listeners, we hope you have enjoyed this little program that we put on for you. We certainly have enjoyed doing it. We really, really love. We do this because we love it, right? We enjoy each other's company. We also like talking about this wonderful hobby that we revolve around. The multiple hobbies that we do. We also enjoy producing something cool that we hope you listen to. If you like it and you want to seek out more, you can find Comic Book Bears on things like the Facebook. You can find us on the X. You can find us on the what's that? It's not the
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. And several other places. I'm not sure if Tumblr still exists or not, but I'm sure you can find the remnants of us there. If you want to view this, right, you can, or listen to this, you can hear us everywhere fine podcasts or listen. Share with your friends. They need to know about this. Word of mouth is a great thing. If you happen to be listening to this and you want to see the live stream, so you can see the graphics and you can see Bill roll in with his amazing hair, which is on fleek tonight, you can do so. Head over to our YouTube page, like it. Give us a little recommendation if you don't mind. Hit the little bell at the top. It'll let you know when we're doing new shows and stuff like that. If you want to write to us, please do so. And you can do that at comicbookbears@gmail.com. Until next time, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Bill Zanowitz.
You're going to hear a
wolfing explosion, and we'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
See, I knew it. I knew he couldn't hang out. So, beautifully done.
Wolf.